Do white people need us to be spit on, hit, beat, killed, without us fighting back in order for them to believe we're not violent? Today, we are talking about protests and white people. So if you're white, this one's for you. Yay! I realized some stuff when I went to my first protest since this COVID-19. Hi, everybody. One of the things that I realized that I was concentrating a lot on was every time the person who was running this particular protest and was talking about white people, he kind of berated them. He said, you know, if you white people are just showing up now, you're late. And
for the white folks, I want you to take note. This is an educational field trip for you. Black people, we've been doing this. We've been living this. This has been our lives.
Stuff like that. And I was like, oh boy, why is he doing this? Why is he alienating these white allies? 75% of the group was white people. Now, that got me thinking. I have been extra conscious of how I talk about and describe white people when I am doing these talks online. I try not to talk about white people, instead talk about experiences that I've had or other black and brown people have had. I now wonder if that was the correct thing to do. I don't want to say all white people are this or all white people are that, because that is racism, and you can never say all of anybody is anything. And if you think all of a particular race is anything, you haven't talked to enough of them. And you need to get out more. So when I was listening to this man berate the white people that were there, saying that they were late, when one of their speakers was a white man who has actually been in the movement longer than this gentleman had been alive, which I thought was ironic. But my concern over them made me think, have I been programmed to think about white people more than anybody else? I know that we need white people to change the laws because they are still in control of the laws. I know that we need white people to change the way that they are policing because they are still most of the police to make this movement happen. I know that we need white people, but I don't know if I should be willing to trust that white people are able to look past being uncomfortable and being criticized. The word is criticized, Billie Jean. Will white people still be with us if they are criticized? Ugh. Fine, just keep going, keep going. Have I gone overboard in thinking about white people? And then I realized I have to think about white people, because what they need to see is how some of our protests have to go. So my goal going to this protest was to meet like-minded people and to try to be a larger part of this movement. And I did meet people. I'm following them online, and one participated in a Zoom meeting that was all black women who have been involved in the social justice movement for years. And what one of them said really struck me. One of the women said, if somebody spits on her, she's not going to just take it. She's going to fight back. And she knows that's the way they did it in the 60s, but this is not the 60s anymore, and she has a right to defend herself. And my thought was, all right, that's fine, but there also needs to be nonviolent movements too, and self-defense movements. And so I typed that in the comments section, and many of them came back saying, we have a right to defend ourselves. Self-defense is not violence. And In my head at the time, I was thinking, but nonviolence, the nonviolent movement that I have been taught, that I know about, is the 60s version, where they teach people, they train people by spitting on them, pulling their hair, knocking them out of off of a stool, different things like that, in order to prepare them not to have that natural instinct of self-defense, to suppress that instinct. There's a cartoon pamphlet from the 60s. So this page of this pamphlet shows exactly what the nonviolent movement was trying to do and why they thought it worked. Hardest of all, you have to help your enemy to see you as a human being. He has to see you as a person who wants the same kind of thing he wants. It'll be easier for him to see you this way if you act like a brother. So even when he tries to hurt you, you must not strike back. Even in your thoughts, you must not strike back. This does not mean giving up, though. It is wrong for this brother of yours to treat you as though you were not a human being, and it would be wrong for you to help him treat you that way. You have to do something to stop him. He is a human being, and so he can treat you badly only because somehow he is afraid of you or of what you might do to him. If you try and stop him by using violence and by getting even, he will be sure he is right in being afraid of you. If you show him love, though, you start to take away the reason for his fear, and you make it harder for him to go on hating you. When I saw this, I was like, whoa, this is very interesting. Anger does stem from hurt or fear. And a lot of times people act like if we get equal rights, that'll move their rights down. It's a lot of fear. They're scared that they're going to lose something. But I think this works because as a human being, seeing somebody who is defenseless, being abused, just gets us. I mean, when you think about it, isn't that what the George Floyd murder was? We all watched as somebody in power abused and ultimately killed a completely helpless man. Now, he wasn't helpless because he had been taught to or because he chose not to. He was helpless because somebody was kneeling on his neck, somebody was on his torso, somebody was on his legs. He didn't have the ability to fight back. And that helplessness did something to us. It did something to us as human beings. Is that what we need to do in order for people to see these protests as a struggle for human rights? The question is, do we need those different ways to protest in order for people to really see us? And I'm making a difference between the nonviolent movement and peaceful protesting. There is a lot of peaceful protesting going on where they have not been taught not to react in self-defense, which is fine. A lot of times in the comments of the protests, the negative comments do come about people fighting back. We see people talking about how people are destroying things, how they're scared for the police. And a lot of times they forget that even if they've seen the police do something to someone right before that, if that person fights back, a lot of the times those comments just keep coming negatively about what the person did back to the police. And we're fighting back against real violence, not violence like the government seems to be describing it, like sitting on their lawns, blocking the streets, playing music, graffiti, even not saying that they should do this because we all hate fireworks after this summer, right? But even throwing fireworks at a building. The buildings, no matter what we do to them, That is not violence. That is not something you can have self-defense over, despite what the police will tell you. Real violence of being spit on, hit, beat, killed. Do we need to take all that stuff without defending ourselves in order for white people to be comfortable and say that they deserve to have the same rights as white people? I don't know. But self-defense should be a clear and easy thing to determine, not this murkiness that the police and other people who kill Black and brown people are calling it right now. In the Ahmaud Arbery case, those men who murdered him, they chased him with 2 trucks and he wouldn't stop. And finally, when they caught up with him and got out of their vehicles and started to try and take him to do a citizen's arrest, he fought back, as anybody would do if strangers were trying to take you somewhere, kidnap you. And him fighting back was enough for them to say that murdering him was self-defense. Is this what we want? Can enough white people see us as human beings if we fight back? Or are we just perpetuating the stereotype that Black people are violent no matter what they see before? So this is a call out to all the white people watching. Throughout this talk, I've been saying white people this, white people that. And as I told you before, not all white people are anything, and a lot of them are in the protests with us. When I'm saying white people, I'm saying that because that is a lot of the people who are pushing back against us right now. But if you see this in yourself, whether you're white, Asian, Hispanic, Indian, American Indian, even Black, I need your help. Is nonviolent protest where we don't use any kind of self-defense the only way that you're going to accept us and listen to these protests? I need to know. I need to know, because if I'm going to tell my husband that I'm going to go out there and get maimed or killed or whatever else, that I did it because white people wouldn't listen any other way. And I have to make it better for the next generation. I need to know. Also, tell me, can you handle being called out sometimes? Can you handle being misrepresented sometimes without leaving us? I don't even know if white people can handle this guy.
The problem exists because white people think they're better than Black people, and they want to oppress us, and they want us to allow ourselves to be oppressed.
This is the big, I agree with you perfectly. This is the basic problem.
Then what do you
that white people think they're better than others.
I can't solve the problem. You guys pull the strings that close schools. You guys draw the boundaries that keep our kids restricted to the ghetto. You guys write up the restrictive covenants that keep us out of houses. So it's up to you to talk to your brothers and your sisters and persuade them that they have a responsibility. We've assumed ours for over 400 years, and we're tired of this kind of stuff now. We're not going to suffer patiently anymore. No more turning the other cheek. No more blessing our enemies. No more praying for those who despitefully use us. We're going to show you that we've learned the lessons you've taught us. We've studied your history, and you did not take over this country by singing "We Shall Overcome." You did not gain control of the world like you have it now by dealing fairly with a man and keeping your word. You're treaty breakers, you're liars, you're thieves, you rape entire continents and races of people. Then you wonder why these very people don't have any confidence or trust in you. Your religion means nothing. Your law is a farce, and we see it every day. You demonstrated it in Alabama. And I can say you because you're part of the whole system. You profit from it. In fact, you make your living from it. You couldn't walk around and talk to people, stand up in your pulpit on Sunday and preach nice little songs and say, now we're going to give thanks to the Lord for he is good and old Jesus be among us. As far as we're concerned, your Jesus is contaminated, just like everything else you tried to force upon us is contaminated. Well, so you can have him.
Could you listen to what he said and hear what is true and the history of it, but not feel bad about yourself, not make it about you, but know that you could be part of the solution? We don't want or need pity. Our goal isn't to make you feel bad about yourself. Our goal is change. If you do see some of the things that he was saying in yourself, work on them. It's not too late. Thank you for listening to this very uncomfortable conversation with the Black woman. And if you haven't seen Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man, please do. He actually says that his talks are for white people. So if I'm too much for you. By the way, please like and subscribe, because it really helps more people see my talks. And I want as many people as possible to see them. If you get anything out of them, please help me reach more people. Thank you.